bosses, this is Simon from Asian Boss. Singapore is normally recognized as the most expensive city in Southeast Asia. But do you know what makes it unique? Can you recognize the way I'm speaking right now? How about my accent? So today we are going to interview Singaporeans on Singlish. So let's go. When you are speaking English as a Singaporean, are you aware that you have a certain accent?
Oh yes, 100%. I'm aware that I have a slight Singlish accent, I would say.
Okay.
Like, even when I was in the States, my friends told me that I had a little bit of an Asian accent because they didn't know which part I was from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that when we speak Singlish, definitely to us, it sounds very natural. So we don't realize very often that we have a different accent. But at the same time, I think it's a very common experience when we go overseas and we hear that Singlish accent and all the additional las and everything that come out. And it's just very distinctive. So yes, very aware that we do sound very different. And perhaps this difference does have a certain connotation or value judgment behind it.
So do you like your accent?
I do appreciate my accent. It's one of a kind in the whole world. I mean, Singlish has been formed by so many years from our forefathers till now. It's been evolving a lot. And I don't think I would say I'm proud of the accent itself.
Okay.
I'm also someone who teaches English.
Okay.
I think you have to love the language, whatever language.
Yeah.
And I think Singlish itself is your background.
Yeah.
So if you like who you are, you embrace your roots, Singlish is nothing bad.
Do you think foreigners will understand that accent?
Maybe foreigners won't understand. It might be not familiar for them. Like, how come certain English words you use it differently?
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's very mixed. I mean, just for myself personally, because a lot of people, especially overseas people, they tend to think that Singlish is not a very refined form of English. And I guess it's agreeable to a certain extent. But I think just in Singapore alone, because it's a language that we came up by ourselves, it's something that's unique to us. I think it's something that we Singaporeans can definitely be proud of. I mean, when we're using amongst other Singaporeans. And if other foreigners are interested to learn this language itself, I mean, we are also more than open to sharing it with them.
Yeah, I went to UK last year. Sometimes my Singlish accent will slip out when I ordering something. Sometimes I say like, can I have this coffee? Can. I used to laugh like, sometimes they don't understand. To them, it's like saying yeah. But to us, it's like saying like that.
Okay.
So sometimes I need to repeat myself in a maybe more fluent accent so that they can understand. Yeah, I think Singlish is just a habit for us to develop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how funny do you think your accent is to foreigners?
Like 9.
9, okay.
I mean, if they hear like me talking to my friends and I don't know they're there, then obviously I'll just be myself.
Yeah.
But if I actually see that they're there, okay, maybe cut down a bit, then it's not so funny anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It's quite funny as well. Maybe an 8 or 7.
Okay.
Due in part to my career, there's a need to speak slightly better English and sound slightly more, like articulate my words and consonants better.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think other people do have remarked a lot of times that I do sound very different. Like when I travel by myself, I stay at international hostels. They always ask me to speak slower or enunciate better.
Yeah.
Funny can be patronizing as a word.
Okay.
But I think it depends which type of foreigner you're referring to. I feel like our Southeast Asian counterparts, they would understand it a lot more.
Yeah.
Whereas people from Europe or who use English as a first language might come here and be like, the vocabulary structure is a little strange.
Yeah.
But there is actually like structure to Singlish also.
Okay.
And a lot of foreigners, like they come to Singapore, after a while they can speak.
Okay.
You know?
Which do you consider the funniest accent?
Australian.
Why?
Like, from my point of view, Australian is like a mix of American and British mixed into one.
Yeah.
And sometimes they use slangs that sometimes I don't understand. But to me, it's kind of funny. No offense to the Australian people. Yeah.
I feel like Russian because they always sound angry.
Oh,
Yeah, I can do a really good Russian accent.
Right, but kid.
Здравствуйте. Yeah, so I don't know, something like that.
Okay, nice.
I think it depends on the person really.
most times, some of us we find a mix of Indian, Malay, quite funny actually.
Okay.
I think actually recently I realized that Irish English is
Okay.
peculiar and very hilarious. Because
Okay.
there's drunk most of the not to put
Yeah.
everyone in a bracket,
Okay.
but like when they're drunk, it's damn funny.
Okay.
Like the UK folks too.
Yeah.
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 I think they're English. There's a certain I'm not sure whether they have a term like Singlish
Yeah.
for it, but when they're drunk, it's very funny.
Mm.
Indian accent,
Okay.
because I would say that the language itself, it has a lot of like it's very, very quickly spoken. So sometimes when you hear them speak about it, when you when you can talk in that language itself, you still tend to get a bit confused as to like what they're saying, or are they like are they happy or are they angry? It's very hard to like tell like what kind of emotion they're trying to like project.
Have you ever been to overseas and people not understand your accent?
Yeah, I was just in Taiwan last month as for solo travel.
Yeah.
And I stayed in a very international backpackers hostel. And I think a lot of people, especially the Americans, there's this American from Texas. He found it very hard to understand me. So like I had to speak very slowly and enunciate very carefully. Yeah.
Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how understandable do you think your accent is to foreigners?
Whoa. Like in terms of pronunciation or slangs or
Just in terms of Singlish.
Very, very low.
yeah.
Like,
I-
we always cut our sentences short.
Yeah.
Correct. And then, like, for example, like we use things like the word can.
Yeah.
They would think like it's like can of drink or
Yeah.
something like that. And there are multiple connotations to the word la.
Yeah.
So all of these things they wouldn't know unless they are culturally informed.
Okay.
Talking about going overseas, right?
Okay.
When I was in the US, I remember I was just walking down a random street, right? And I heard these two girls talking, and they were talking Singlish.
Yeah.
And like I just knew they were from Singapore.
Okay.
Like it was just like a modular Singapore moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we noticed that you spoke a lot of Singlish. Now let's play the other way. Let's try to talk without using Singlish. So I will just ask you a question and then you try to reply in the most proper English possible. Now, being a Singaporean, how expensive would you say to live in Singapore?
Like speak in proper
Yes.
proper Queen Victoria English.
Just proper English will do.
proper like what's the question?
How expensive would you say to live in Singapore?
Singapore is very, very expensive. Yeah.
So then, what is Singlish for foreigners who might not be familiar with it?
Maybe because we mix together multiple languages, so people will mistaken certain languages as
Okay.
in like maybe Malay might sound a little bit English to them, but it's actually not
Okay.
English.
So Singlish is our local pidgin, like a local mix of course English, but also at the same time, there is an influx of we borrow a lot of words from other languages like
Okay.
Malay, Chinese, the Chinese dialects and
Okay.
everything. So it's our own local brand of English.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Nice.
I feel like, especially for both Singapore and even Malaysia, because we are a very like multicultural society,
Yeah.
we just mix like different languages from different
Yeah.
So that is where like for example la is like from Malay, right?
Yeah.
And then we have like sian, which is like for Chinese.
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it came out maybe in the early 1960s onwards,
Yeah.
back then when
Yeah.
when we were still coming out of like the World War II period, and back then of course we had a couple of racial riots as well, and our government wanted to promote the idea of racial harmony. So I think because of this idea of racial harmony in our country, it actually like galvanized us Singaporeans together to come together and just put our differences aside, whether we're Chinese, Indian or Malay, to come together and really like forge a bond where we can like just exchange our cultures
Yeah.
together. And from then on, I guess that is how Singlish was born, because of this movement that we should work and live together alongside each other.
Okay. So for the next part, we're going to do a fun experiment. I want you to speak in the most Singlish way possible, okay? So I'm going to ask you two questions. Reply in your most Singlish way possible, okay? Now, question number one is, how expensive would you say it is to live in Singapore? Answer in your most Singlish way.
Super expensive lah.
Okay.
Why this type of thing so cheap, sia? Like so expensive one. Whoa, I cannot, sia.
Now, we know that Singapore is a small country, but how hard is it to make friends over here?
No lah, where got hard? Singapore very small one.
Okay.
You see, when I walk here, I already meet a lot of people I see already. Aiya.
actually making friends in Singapore is actually not so difficult. You just have to go out, just be yourself, and as long as you have a little bit of Singlish accent, you can link with people.
Okay. So we noticed that Singaporeans like to use the word la. What does it actually mean?
I'm not sure exactly what it means. I think it's what a lot of people add on just as a natural word to their sentences.
Yeah.
So my dad always told me to stop singing when I'm speaking English.
Okay.
He said don't do that. I'm like,
Okay. How many versions of the word can you do?
Like, can be used in a pleading fashion, like, can la, please la, tolong la, or can la, surely, chop chop, easy, easy. Let me think. Can? Really can like that, man? Can
Yeah.
And I think those are the three that come to mind.
Okay.
Can lah, can meh, can lo,
Okay.
cannot sia,
Okay.
something like that.
Nice.
So let's say your friend asks you something like, do you think this one can do? Then you can just, can lah, can do one.
Mm.
Then another way we can use can is, if someone asks you something, you also can already. Everything is can one. Cannot also can become can.
What does the Singapore expression catch no ball means?
Catch no balls means you don't understand a single thing the person just said.
Okay. So how do you apply that to a sentence? Like how do you say catch no ball in the sentence?
I catch no balls. I catch no balls. Can you repeat yourself?
Okay. What about the word shack?
Oh, shag ah. So example, right now it's very hot. Oh, very shag. Sweating everywhere. Alamak, cannot handle yourself.
Okay.
Shag. Actually, I don't know the origins of this word, but it just means like after a long day and you're like feeling like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And you're ready to like call it a day and rest. That's shag.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you know what it means in Europe or other countries?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good enough. Okay. Now, one last question, right? What advice would you want to have for people wanting to visit Singapore in future and might be worried that they might not understand your accent?
In terms of accent, I think you'll be fine because like it's English. As long as you've got ears and you've got ears to listen, you can pick it up. No worries about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So because we speak pretty fast for Singaporeans in general.
Yeah.
And we are like New Yorkers in the Asian sense because we are fast paced, right? So I think it's good that they could have something like a Siri or a mobile app that has translation so that if they don't understand the local who is speaking Singlish, they can probably use the translator that can actually speak. And then maybe that will help to merge the understanding faster.
Okay, the first impression that a lot of foreigners have will be, oh, Singapore part of China, and they are worried that they cannot speak Singaporean, whatever Singaporean means. So actually, we do have a lot of English. Everything is in English in Singapore. But in terms of understanding spoken English, I think foreigners do have to understand that we do sound very different to them. So perhaps if they don't understand us, just ask us to slow down what we say. And yeah, usually it's the speed of what we say that makes it difficult for them to understand.
Even though it's slightly difficult to understand if you are completely from out of Singapore, I would say generally a lot of Singaporeans, Singlish is, even if it's strong, you still will be able to understand the basic understanding of the sentence. So I would say communicating with locals here, it's not so difficult. It's just more of how you are able to communicate back then, whether or not you can truly understand the meaning behind of what they're actually saying. But in terms of actually knowing what they're saying, I think it's fine.